Apparently it's Christmas. Of course I got you a present. It's 5 pieces of questionable advice about a sport that you probably couldn't care less about.
Oh boy, just what we always wanted!
You're welcome. So, I've been bouldering for just over a month now. At first it was tough. I had no idea what I was doing. And I didn't know why I'd started speaking in this weird accent. But, through the blisters and the heartache, I persevered. I would not give up. And now, 1 month later, yeah, I'm still terrible. As you can see, I'm still pretty terrible and it's still pretty difficult, but I'm not quite as bad as it was a month ago. So let's go back to mine, but I didn't want that to sound quite as fruity as it did. And then I'll take you through 5 things I've learned in my first month. I'm obviously not a bouldering expert by any means whatsoever. I think I've been 8 times so far, but I have learned some stuff in that time that I didn't know at the start, which I think would be handy if you are about to go as a complete beginner. Number 1 is to get chalk. So when I first started, I saw everyone else using chalk, but I thought as a complete beginner and, you know, pretty hopeless, it wouldn't make any difference to me. And I didn't want to be that kind of guy, like all the gear, no idea, like, you know, chalking up my hands and then I can't even get on the wall. But there is a reason that everybody uses it, and that is that it helps. The chalk dries the sweat and any other moisture on your hands, and that gives you a better grip on the holes. And it also gives you really white hands, so you can be a kind of French mime. Now, while we're talking about hands, that brings me on to my second point, which is not to destroy yours. Now, if you're like me, when you first start going, you really enjoy it, and you're going to want to go all the time. But if your hands are anything like mine, that would be a terrible idea. When I go bouldering, the skin on my hands and fingers gets absolutely mullered, and from speaking to other people, I think that is completely normal. There's not really a lot you can do about it. Like, the skin will kind of toughen up over time, but that will take quite a while. In the meantime, you just got to be sort of sensible really, and kind of keep an eye on the condition of your hands, because when they get really bad, it gets really sore and you can't grip onto things properly. I've had one session where I went and it was basically pointless me being there because my hands were so sore that I was trying not to kind of use certain parts of my hands while I grip on things, and yeah, it was just impossible. I'm not saying you need to leave it 6 months between each session so that your little handsy wansies can get all soft and perfect again, but don't let them get into a state where it's going to take weeks and weeks to recover. Basically at the start, don't climb too often or for too long. You'll be able to increase the frequency of how often you go and how long you can climb for as your hands get used to it. Right, my third point is to get advice. So what I've realised is that boulderers are really weird. Like, they'll come over and talk to you and they'll be really friendly and they'll kind of give you advice without you asking for it. They'll show you how to do stuff that they can see that you're struggling with and help you out, and it's actually really useful. Weirdos. My fourth point is not to give up too easily on a route. So at a climbing centre there's loads of different routes, they're called problems. Some are harder than others, they're all kind of graded by a sort of colour scheme, so you have an idea of, you know, what sort of chance you've got of being able to do it and how hard it's likely to be. But even within different colours and across different colours, you'll find some easier than others just because it suits your strengths and weaknesses better, or not as much as a different one. But some of the most fun I've had is when I can't quite complete a route. I'm not talking about one that's so ridiculously hard that I'm never going to complete it in a million years, but one where each time I do it I get kind of like a little bit closer and I'm like, I know I can do this, and I just keep on trying and trying. It's really frustrating, but in a really fun way. And then the sense of satisfaction that you get when you actually finish it is fantastic. And the weird thing is, there are problems where the first time you try it, you don't get anywhere near it and you think, man, this is like way too hard for me, I'm never going to do this. But once you've done it once, it feels completely easy after that, like you wonder how you ever struggled. But yeah, that feeling when you complete a problem that you've been like failing out loads and loads of times is fantastic. And I always think if you do that sort of quite near the end of a session, just leave then, because like you're on such a high, rather than starting another one when you're already knackered. Then you end up leaving with a kind of mindset of, oh, I didn't manage to do that. And my fifth and final point is just to have fun. There's a million different things to learn about, like technique and training and skills and strength, all that sort of stuff. But one of the good things about bouldering is there isn't really a right and wrong. Like, there's certain routes that are designed to be done in a certain way, but ultimately, if you can get from the bottom to the top, then it doesn't matter how you got there. Like, that's it, done. Unless you use a ladder or something, I think that's frowned upon. So yeah, feel free to kind of mess around and try different things. Try routes that you think are actually way too hard for you, just to see if you can do maybe like the first little step of it. You might surprise yourself. So once I'd been a couple of times, there were quite a few whites. White is one of the easiest levels, quite a few white routes that I couldn't do. So I said to myself, right, well, I'm gonna get to a stage where I can do every single white one, and then I'll move on to the blue. But there were quite a few white ones that I was still struggling with, ones that I just didn't seem to be able to quite manage. So then I thought, well, I'm just gonna try this blue. And I tried it a couple of times, actually got quite close to the end, and a guy came over to me and said, that's actually one of the hardest blues in the centre that you're doing. He showed me how to do a different blue, and I did it first time. He showed me how to do another one, again I did that first time.
Alright, nobody likes to show off.
If I'd never sort of started messing around and trying a blue, I wouldn't have thought for a million years that I could do one, because like I said, I hadn't even managed to complete all of the whites. And the other day I managed to do a light yellow greeny type thing, which is much harder than a lot of routes that I failed on. But it's because even in the grading, there's certain things that you'll find easier. You know, obviously I'm tall, so that's an advantage on certain things. My grip strength isn't as good as certain people. But yeah, if you like the look of something and you want to have a go at it, just give it a go, and if you fall off, you fall off. So there you go, thank you for watching. Let me know if you've ever tried bouldering or you fancy giving it a go. And if you know more about it than me, which let's face it, wouldn't be hard, let me know some of your top bits of advice in the little commentsy thing down below. This will obviously be my last video before Christmas, so I hope you have a fantastic break, and I'll see you on the other side.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animal.